The engine roared, the tires bit into the asphalt, the desert stretched out before them, baking under a relentless sun. Agent Tony Spears gripped the steering wheel, a grin spreading across his face. Beside him, Agent Josie Jackson laughed, her hair whipping in the wind. Their vacation had officially begun. No more suits, no more briefings, no more chasing shadows in the dark. This was their time. The story of highway havoc. Tony Spears was a force of nature. Trained by the best, he was a lethal weapon disguised in a tailored suit. He moved with the grace of a panther and the power of a grizzly bear. He was a master of disguise, blending seamlessly into any environment. Beneath that tough exterior beat the heart of a true hero. He was Tony Spears, and he was ready for whatever the open road threw his way. And he had a feeling this trip was going to be one for the books. Josie Jackson was a whirlwind of brilliance and beauty. Her mind was a steel trap, capable of processing information with lightning speed. She was a master of strategy, always 10 steps ahead. But Josie was more than just brains. She was a skilled fighter, trained in multiple forms of martial arts. She was Tony's equal in every way. She was Josie Jackson, and she was ready to leave her mark on the world. The sun beat down on the dusty asphalt. Tony and Josie cruised along, lost in conversation. Suddenly, a dark shape appeared in their rearview mirror. 4 motorcycles roared up beside them. The riders, clad in leather and denim, glared at Tony and Josie with undisguised hostility. Tony exchanged a wary glance with Josie. They both knew trouble when they saw it.
"Pull over," the biker growled.
Tony hesitated, but he wasn't one to back down from a fight.
"You picked the wrong day to mess with the Grim Reapers." They fanned out, surrounding the Mustang. Tony threw the car door open, surprising the biker closest to him. Before the biker could react, Tony landed a swift kick to his chest. Josie was out of the car in a flash, a blur of motion. Tony, meanwhile, faced off against 2 of the bikers. He ducked under a wild haymaker and unleashed a flurry of punches. The biker's eyes rolled up in his head, his body going limp as he crumpled to the ground. "Narrator," the lead biker laughed.
Josie was engaged in a fierce battle of her own. 2 of the bikers had targeted her. Josie moved with a grace and speed that seemed almost superhuman. She dodged a chain whip and countered with a spinning back kick.
"Stay down," she said. The 2 women, realizing they were outmatched, backed away slowly. Josie turned to check on Tony, who was dusting himself off, a satisfied grin spreading across his face.
The lead biker, his face bruised and bloodied, struggled to his feet.
"You're good," he growled.
"I think it is," Tony said. The biker hesitated, then extended his hand.
"Name's Tang. We were wrong to mess with you.
Tony shook Tank's hand.
How about we give you an escort?"
"All right," Tony said, a slow grin spreading across his face.
And with that, the unlikely convoy roared back to life. The neon lights of Vegas twinkled in the distance. Tony and Josie were content to leave the bright lights behind. Tank and his crew had proven to be surprisingly good company. The desert night fell like a heavy curtain. Josie snuggled deeper into her leather jacket. She felt a sense of peace settle over her. The open road had a way of stripping away the layers of pretense. The town was even smaller and more desolate than they had imagined. The motel seemed to materialize out of the dust like a mirage.
"Don't let the decor fool you," he said. "Clean sheets, hot showers, and the best damn apple pie this side of the Mississippi."
Josie smiled politely, but her eyes darted around.
"It'll do," he said. "Come on, let's get checked in. I could use a shower and a stiff drink." He slung his duffel bag over his shoulder and followed Tank towards the office.
The room was small and cramped.
Josie wrinkled her nose. She unpacked her toiletry bag. She turned on the faucet, expecting a rush of hot water. Instead, she was greeted by a sputtering cough and a trickle of rusty water.
Tony looked up at her.
The water pressure's non-existent.
"Great," he said, running a hand through his hair. "We'll find that apple pie Tank was talking about, and then we'll see if we can sweet-talk Ma Barker into giving us a room with a working shower."
The apple pie, as it turned out, was indeed excellent, a warm and comforting treat after a long and tiring day. But even the pie couldn't completely erase the fatigue that had settled into their bones. Ma Barker, a kindly woman with a warm smile and a no-nonsense demeanor, had apologized for the plumbing issues, explaining that the motel's well had been acting up lately. She promised to send her son Junior to take a look at it first thing in the morning. Exhausted but unable to sleep, Tony and Josie lay in bed listening to the strange symphony of sounds that filled the night. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows and making the old building creak and groan. The neon sign buzzed intermittently, casting an eerie glow on the ceiling, and from the room next door, they could hear a series of muffled thumps and bangs, punctuated by the occasional muffled curse.
"What do you think that's all about?" she whispered.
"Probably just some honeymooners having a little too much fun," he said, trying to sound nonchalant. But even as he said the words, a prickle of unease ran down his spine. The sounds coming from next door were getting louder, more insistent. It sounded like furniture being overturned, like a struggle of some sort. Tony and Josie exchanged a look, a silent acknowledgement that something wasn't quite right.
Tony quietly got out of bed and reached for his duffel bag. He pulled out his gun and checked the magazine, his movements swift and practiced. Josie followed suit, her own weapon appearing in her hand as if by magic. They moved silently towards the door, their senses on high alert. Tony placed his ear against the thin wood, straining to hear what was happening on the other side. The muffled sounds of a struggle were now unmistakable. There were grunts of exertion, the crash of breaking glass, and a woman's voice raised in a sharp cry of alarm.
Tony didn't hesitate. He threw his weight against the door, the flimsy lock splintering under the force of his shoulder. The door swung open, revealing a scene of chaos. Two men, their faces contorted in anger, were grappling with a young couple, a terrified-looking man and woman who were desperately trying to fight them off. The room was in disarray. Furniture overturned, lamps smashed, the remnants of a struggle scattered across the floor. "What the hell is going on in here?" Tony roared, his voice echoing in the small room. The two attackers, momentarily stunned by the interruption, turned to face him, their eyes wide with surprise. It was all the distraction the young couple needed. The woman, her face pale but her eyes blazing with defiance, kicked one of the attackers in the groin, sending him reeling back in pain. The young man, seizing his opportunity, rammed his shoulder into the other attacker's chest, sending him crashing into the wall. Tony and Josie moved swiftly, their movements a blur of controlled aggression as they disarmed the attackers and pinned them to the ground. The fight was over almost before it began.
The bright lights of Las Vegas shimmered in the distance, a beacon of excitement that pulsed with the promise of thrills and unforgettable memories. After their detour through the dusty back roads and their encounter with the rough-and-tumble hospitality of the dusty road's end, Tony and Josie were more than ready to trade the quiet hum of the desert night for the pulsating energy of Sin City. As they approached the city limits, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange, deep purple, and a soft, almost ethereal pink. The air crackled with anticipation, a tangible shift from the serene stillness of the desert to the electric hum of a city that never sleeps. Gone were the endless stretches of empty highway and the sparse, windswept landscapes. In their place rose a glittering cityscape, a monument to extravagance and entertainment, where towering hotels scraped the sky and neon lights battled for dominance against the fading daylight.
"Well, Josie," he said, his voice laced with a hint of excitement, "we made it. Ready to roll the dice and see what Lady Luck has in store for us."
"Let's do it, partner," she replied, her voice laced with a hint of playful challenge. "But try to keep your shirt on this time, all right? We're here to relax, not start an international incident."
As they cruised down Las Vegas Boulevard, the strip unfolding before them in all its dazzling glory, the events of the past few days, the biker encounter, the rundown motel, the strange noises in the night, all seemed to fade into the background. This was Vegas, a place where anything could happen, where fortunes were won and lost on a roll of the dice, and where even the most ordinary of vacations could turn into an unforgettable adventure. The pulsating heart of the strip throbbed with energy. Crowds surged like a human tide, their faces a mixture of awe and excitement as they took in the sensory overload that was Las Vegas. Music spilled out from every doorway, competing with the roar of sports cars and the excited chatter of tourists from every corner of the globe. Tony and Josie, caught up in the whirlwind of activity, strolled down the sidewalk, taking in the sights, their senses on high alert even as they tried to blend in with the throngs of tourists.
"We need to stop them."
Suddenly, a piercing shriek cut through the air, followed by shouts of alarm and the shattering of glass. The crowd, momentarily stunned into silence, parted like the Red Sea as a group of masked figures, clad in black from head to toe, burst out of a high-end jewelry store, their arms laden with glittering loot. They moved with a ruthless efficiency that spoke of careful planning and military precision, their movements a blur as they shoved past stunned onlookers, scattering the crowd like pigeons. One of the figures, taller than the others and radiating an aura of cold, calculating menace, fired a shot into the air, the sharp crack of the gunshot echoing down the boulevard like a whip crack. Panic erupted, tourists screamed and scrambled for cover, their cries blending with the insistent wail of approaching sirens. Tony and Josie, their instincts honed from years of facing down danger, reacted instantly. Without hesitation, they plunged into the heart of the chaos, their movements swift and sure as they navigated the panicked crowd, their eyes never leaving the fleeing figures. This was no ordinary robbery. This was a well-orchestrated heist, carried out with a level of precision that sent chills down their spines. The thieves, their escape route clearly pre-planned, sprinted towards a waiting vehicle, a nondescript black SUV with tinted windows that was parked haphazardly on the curb, its engine idling. They piled into the vehicle, their movements a blur of urgency. The taller figure, his face obscured by a black ski mask, slammed the door shut, and the SUV roared to life, tires screeching as it lurched into traffic, scattering pedestrians and cutting off a taxi driver who leaned on his horn in a furious but futile protest. Tony shouted. His eyes narrowed as he watched the SUV weave through the traffic, its driver showing a blatant disregard for traffic laws and the safety of others. They couldn't let them escape, not with that much stolen jewelry, and certainly not with the level of reckless disregard for human life that the thieves had displayed. But they were on foot, and the SUV was already disappearing into the stream of vehicles that clogged the strip. Josie, ever resourceful, grabbed Tony's arm, her eyes scanning the street. S1, they're getting away, she exclaimed, pointing towards a group of motorcycles parked outside a nearby casino. It was Tang and his crew, their leather vests gleaming under the neon lights, their faces a mixture of amusement and boredom as they watched the aftermath of the heist unfold with a detached curiosity. S2 there. Ooh.
Well, look who it is, back for round 2, S1. Tank?
Tony yelled, waving his arms to get their attention. The bikers, alerted by his shout, turned their heads, their expressions shifting from casual indifference to surprised recognition. Tank, a slow grin spreading across his face, revved his engine, the roar of his Harley momentarily drowning out the surrounding chaos.
We need your help, Tang.
Tony said, his voice urgent as he quickly explained the situation, his words tumbling over each other in his haste. He pointed towards the black SUV, which was now just a speck in the distance, weaving dangerously through traffic as it headed towards the outskirts of the city.
They hit a jewelry store, got away with a fortune, and they're making a run for it.
Tank listened intently, his eyes narrowed, his expression thoughtful. The other bikers, their curiosity piqued, gathered around, their faces a mixture of concern and anticipation. They might have been rough around the edges, but even they knew that a crime like this, a brazen heist in the heart of Las Vegas, was bad for business.
We can't let them get away with this, Tang.
All right, Spears, you got yourself a posse. Those fancy cars they use in those cop shows are no match for a pack of Harleys, especially with us at the handlebars.
Tank, his face unreadable, considered Tony's words for a moment, weighing his options. He had no love for the law, but he had a strict code of honor, a sense of right and wrong that even the outlaw life couldn't extinguish. Finally, he nodded, his mind made up.
Let's go teach these city slickers a lesson they won't soon forget.
He grinned, a flash of teeth in the neon light. The roar of motorcycle engines shattered the night, a deafening chorus of power and defiance.
Tank, with a nod to Tony and Josie, kicked his Harley into gear, the engine roaring to life like a caged beast suddenly set free. His biker crew, their faces grim, followed suit, their bikes rumbling in unison as they formed a thundering pack behind their leader.
Tony and Josie, adrenaline surging through their veins, held on tight as they rode pillion behind Tank and one of his lieutenants, the wind whipping at their faces, the neon lights of the strip blurring into a kaleidoscope of colors.
The bikers, their knowledge of the city streets proving invaluable, maneuvered their Harleys with expert precision, weaving through traffic, taking shortcuts through back alleys, their engines a symphony of power and speed. The black SUV, its driver growing increasingly desperate, sped recklessly through the city, running red lights, narrowly avoiding collisions, its tires screaming in protest as it raced to outrun the pack of bikers that pursued them with relentless determination. The chase led them off the glitzy strip, past the casinos and hotels, and into the sprawling suburbs, where palm trees lined the streets and manicured lawns whispered of a more tranquil existence. Ahead, the lights of the freeway beckoned, promising a high-speed escape route.
Tony, his heart pounding with anticipation, gripped Josie's hand, his eyes fixed on the fleeing SUV. This was it, their chance to bring the thieves to justice.
The chase was far from over, but with Tang and his crew riding alongside them, they knew they had a fighting chance. The highway awaited, a ribbon of asphalt stretching out under the desert moon, and Tony, Josie, and their unlikely allies were ready for the final showdown. The black SUV, now a speeding bullet under the vast desert sky, shot onto the open freeway, leaving the glittering chaos of Las Vegas behind. The driver, pushing the powerful engine to its limit, desperately tried to outrun the roaring pack of chrome and leather that was hot on their tail. The highway stretched ahead, a seemingly endless ribbon of asphalt cutting through the moonlit landscape, offering the promise of escape, but also the threat of a high-speed showdown.
Tang, his face a mask of grim determination beneath his bandana, twisted the throttle of his Harley, urging his iron horse to close the distance.
The other bikers, their engines screaming in unison, followed his lead, their bikes a blur of chrome and leather as they fanned out across the highway, effectively blocking any escape route for the fleeing SUV.
Tony, his adrenaline surging, held on tight to Tang, the wind screaming in his ears, his eyes never leaving the SUV. He could feel the raw power of the Harley beneath him, the vibrations coursing through his body like a shot of pure energy.
Beside him, Josie mirrored his intensity, her grip on their biker escort unwavering, her eyes narrowed as she assessed the situation.
The chase was on. A high-octane ballet of speed and skill played out against the backdrop of the Nevada desert, the roar of engines echoing through the night, a symphony of defiance against those who thought they could escape justice. The highway stretched ahead, a battleground where the stakes were high and the only rules were survival and the relentless pursuit of justice. The driver of the SUV, his confidence waning with each passing mile, glanced nervously at the rearview mirror, his heart sinking at the sight that greeted him. What had started as a clean getaway was rapidly turning into a desperate fight for survival. The bikers, their headlights blazing like the eyes of predatory animals, had closed the distance, their formation growing tighter, their intentions clear. They were boxed in. The bikers, their movements coordinated with impressive precision, had effectively cut off any escape route, their bikes forming a moving wall of chrome and leather. Panic welled up in the driver's chest, constricting his breath, making his hands sweat on the steering wheel. He glanced at his companions, their faces pale with fear beneath their masks, their bravado from the heist long gone. SUV driver, "We're trapped, man. What are we gonna do?" SUV leader, "Hold tight," he said, his voice barely audible above the roar of the engines and the wind whipping through the open windows. "And get ready to move." He reached into his bag, his fingers closing around a cold, metallic object. The situation was about to escalate, and the peace of the desert night was about to be shattered by the sounds of violence. The sound of sirens, distant at first, grew steadily louder, slicing through the roar of motorcycle engines and the tense silence that had settled over the highway. Red and blue lights flickered on the horizon, growing larger, brighter with each passing second.
A line of state trooper vehicles, their sirens wailing, their lights painting the asphalt in a kaleidoscope of red and blue, joined the chase. Their arrival shifted the balance of power, adding a new layer of danger and uncertainty to the already volatile situation.
Tang, his eyes narrowed, assessed the situation in a heartbeat. He had no love for the law, but even he recognized that this was bigger than their personal code.
He raised his hand, signaling his crew to slow down, to allow the troopers to take the lead. The bikers, their formation unwavering, adjusted their speed, their bikes flanking the SUV, their presence a constant reminder that escape was impossible.
Tony and Josie exchanged a look, a silent understanding passing between them. This was their moment. They had tracked the thieves, survived a high-speed chase, and now, with the help of their unlikely allies, they were about to bring the criminals to justice.
The troopers, their training kicking in, moved with precision. Their vehicles boxed in the SUV, their voices sharp and authoritative as they barked orders through their loudspeakers.
The SUV, its escape route effectively cut off, slowed to a stop, its tires screeching in protest. The game was over. The Bellagio Hotel, its facade shimmering like a golden mirage, welcomed them with its extravagant display of opulence and grandeur. The famous fountains danced in the foreground, their choreographed movements a mesmerizing spectacle of water and light, a fitting symbol of the extravagant playground that awaited them.
Well, partner, Tony said, a tired but genuine smile spreading across his face. I told you this trip would be unforgettable.
Josie chuckled, her eyes twinkling with amusement. Unforgettable is one word for it, she replied, shaking her head at the absurdity of it all. I just hope the rest of our vacation is a little less eventful.
Tony laughed, slinging his arm around her shoulders.
Come on!
He said, steering her towards the Bellagio's grand entrance. Let's get checked in, grab a shower, and then we can figure out how to spend our winnings.
Josie raised an eyebrow. Winnings?
Oh yeah, Tony grinned, his voice laced with a hint of mischief. Didn't I tell you, Tang and his crew refused to take any reward money, said it was all part of the Vegas experience. He winked at her. So, I figured we could consider it our vacation fund. After all, what happens in Vegas?
Tony let the sentence hang in the air, his grin widening. Josie laughed, shaking her head at his antics. They had earned this, a little luxury, a little indulgence, a chance to revel in the afterglow of their adventure before duty called them back to the shadows. For now, they were content to be Tony and Josie, two friends on vacation, ready to embrace all that Las Vegas had to offer. The night was young, the possibilities endless, and they, for the first time in a long time, were free to write their own story. The open road stretched behind them, a tapestry woven from sun-drenched asphalt, dusty detours, and the echoes of roaring engines. It had been a journey of unexpected turns, a wild ride that had tested their limits, pushed them to their breaking points, and ultimately revealed the depths of their strength, resilience, and unwavering loyalty to each other. They had traded the familiar shadows of their clandestine world for the unpredictable nature of the open road, embracing the unknown with a mixture of trepidation and exhilaration. Along the way, they had faced down danger, confronted their fears, and emerged from the crucible of adversity with their spirits unbroken, their bond unyielding. The road to Vegas had been anything but predictable. It had been a crash course in the unpredictable nature of life, a reminder that even the most carefully laid plans could be derailed by a flat tire, a chance encounter, or a gang of bikers with a penchant for trouble. But it had also been a journey of self-discovery, a testament to the enduring power of friendship, and a reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures are the ones we least expect. The clinking of glasses, the soft murmur of conversation, the gentle splashing of the Bellagio fountains, the sounds of celebration swirled around them, a soothing balm after the adrenaline-fueled chaos of the past few days. They had traded the roar of motorcycle engines for the smooth jazz that flowed through the upscale bar. As they sipped their drinks, their laughter echoing softly in the dimly lit space, Tony and Josie reflected on the unlikely friendships they had forged during their adventure. Tang and his biker crew, initially perceived as a threat, had proven to be unlikely allies, their rough exteriors hiding a code of honor and a surprising capacity for loyalty. The shared experience, the adrenaline rush of the chase, the satisfaction of bringing criminals to justice, had created an unexpected bond between them, a testament to the fact that sometimes the greatest connections are forged in the heat of the moment, when instincts take over and trust is implicit. The lights of Las Vegas twinkled beneath them, a dazzling tapestry of neon, LED, and halogen, a testament to human ingenuity and the relentless pursuit of entertainment. From their vantage point high above the Strip, the city looked like a vast circuit board, its energy pulsating, its rhythm intoxicating. As they stood there bathed in the cool night air, the events of the past few days, the encounters, the challenges, the triumphs, all seemed to melt away, leaving behind a sense of peace, a profound appreciation for the simple joy of being alive, of sharing a moment of quiet camaraderie with a trusted friend. They had come to Las Vegas seeking a break from the shadows, a chance to recharge, to reconnect with the world outside the clandestine operations that define their lives. And they had found it, albeit in the most unexpected of ways. They had faced down danger, embraced the unexpected, and emerged from the crucible of adversity with their spirits unbroken, their bond unbreakable. As they turned away from the dazzling spectacle of the Strip, their gaze drawn upwards to the vast expanse of the desert sky, they knew that their journey was far from over. The open road, with all its twists and turns, still beckoned, and they, together, were ready to answer its call. For Tony and Josie, the adventure had just begun.